Welcome to Anything But Ordinary, the podcast that explores the extraordinary world behind the world, the unordinary people and businesses that create the extraordinary bubble around high-profile life. I am Zoe Jackson, and in each episode I sit down with inspiring individuals, from founders and creators to pioneers and disruptors, who are redefining success and carving out their own paths in business and in life. We dive into the personal challenges, triumphs and turning points that make their journeys anything but ordinary. This show is your reminder that success isn't one size fits all, and life really is anything but ordinary. Welcome, Tessa. Thank you for joining for Anything But Ordinary. Can I just say as well, I think that I can say this because I'm a mum, but there is nothing quite like a mum on a mission.
Take two mums on a mission. So myself and my co-founder, Sasha, she has a son who's the same age as my son as well. So yeah, we were two mums on a mission.
Wow.
And don't get in the way of two mums on a mission.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, from creating the most wonderful outfit for the school play or whatever, but to creating a business founded on something that you're so passionate about. So the app Olio, tell us about it.
So Olio is an app that connects people with their neighbours. So they can give away rather than throw away their spare food and household items. And the light bulb moment for Olio happened just over 10 years ago. I was living overseas and moving back to the UK.
Okay.
And on moving day, the removal men told me I had to throw away all of our uneaten food.
Yeah.
I'm a farmer's daughter, so I was brought up in a family where food waste was literally a crime. And so, of course, I was not prepared to put perfectly good food in the bin. So instead, I bundled up my newborn baby and toddler and set out into the streets in the depth of winter, clutching this food, hoping to find someone to give it to. And unfortunately, my plan was foiled because the lady who was normally always in this one spot outside our local supermarket was not there that day.
Okay.
And I must admit, I shed a few tears of utter frustration. I'd gone to all this effort on a very stressful day and the removal men were not happy with me at all. So I went back to the apartment, and when the removal men were in another room, I hid the non-perishable food in the bottom of my packing boxes. And I can just remember that moment really, really vividly, thinking, Tessa, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're resorting to cross-border smuggling. You're not the smuggling sort. And at that point in time, I had worked in the digital space for a decade. I knew there was an app for absolutely everything. And I couldn't believe there wasn't a simple app where I could advertise my food and neighbours living by could request it and pop round and pick it up.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. It's one of those ideas that is kind of retrospectively very obvious.
Absolutely. So you spoke about coming from a farmer background, growing up on a farm in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
How much has that influenced your the app and also just your thought process there, where you're kind of saying, I'm not going to throw it away?
So I've come 360 on my farming upbringing. When I was a child, in particular kind of a teenager, and when I was in my 20s, it was something that I really kept to myself because it was something that wasn't particularly relatable to other people. So when the other kids were going shopping or swimming or to the movies or having play dates, I was sort of working out on the farm, in the fields, moving cows around, doing all sorts of things. And it was just something I kept to myself. And it wasn't anything that I thought would necessarily be particularly helpful or useful for me later on in life. Now that I am an entrepreneur, I've realized that so many of the skills that I have were skills that I developed in my childhood on the farm. So when you work on a farm, first of all, you're having to problem solve all day, every day.
I'm
it's
sure.
Like you cannot control the weather. You cannot control the animals. The machinery always breaks down when you least need it. And you haven't necessarily got all of the tools, the perfect tools and the perfect resources around you to perfectly fix things. So you get very good at sort of jimmy rigging stuff and making, just patching things over and figuring out how to sort of solve whatever problems in front of you with whatever resources you have. And that's a skill set and a mindset and a mentality that has been invaluable for entrepreneurship. Also, growing up on a farm, it is just brutal, the amount of just sheer hard work that you have to put in just for the farm to sort of keep functioning and keep its head above water. And again, when you're building a business, it's relentless. There is no getting around the fact that it's a 24/7 type approach to working. And if you're not working, you're certainly thinking about it. And then finally, really growing up on a farm, I was just completely embedded in nature and the environment, and had a good appreciation for humanity's role within the broader ecosystem. So I've always been really passionate about the planet and about the climate. I've been brought up, my parents were of the post-war generation. So my mum used to say, waste not, want not.
Yes, we've all heard
the
that.
whole time. Mend and make do, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, waste is just absolute anathema. So all of those things, I think, really sort of convalesce. So I started off on the farm. I then ran as far away from the farm as I could, and I just became a rabid consumer and had a very, very corporate career. And now I've come sort of 360, and I'm really marrying those childhood roots with my business experience to hopefully kind of have real impact on the world and solve one of the largest problems facing humanity today, which is the problem of food waste specifically, and also waste more broadly.
It is amazing, actually, to hear you talk about this, because I listened to your TED Talk, actually, and I don't think a lot of people often think about food waste in the way that you have thought about it.
Yeah.
Because actually people think they're doing the right thing by taking their food, maybe composting it, etc. But actually, it's not always kind of given the results that you think that you're doing. Like you're not actually saving the planet.
No, so that's a really common misconception. It's really easy to think, well, food sort of comes from the ground, and so if I put it in my food waste composting bin, then it returns to the ground. So where's the harm in that? But unfortunately, the reality is that sort of 80 to 90% of the carbon emissions associated with producing the food take place before it even gets to your plate. And so the final bit of emissions, whether it ends up in compost versus ends up in landfill or somewhere else, is only that 10 or 20%. And to sort of contextualize just how many resources go into producing this food, a third of which we waste. So globally, a third of all the food that's produced each year goes to waste.
It's actually outstanding. It's astonishing.
It's bonkers. It's worth
yeah.
over $1 trillion US. Meanwhile, we have 800 million people who go to bed hungry each night. But then a landmass larger than China is used every year to grow food that's never eaten. So that is soil that's been degraded, forests that have been razed to the ground, species driven to extinction. A quarter of humanity's fresh water is used to grow food that's never eaten. And then that food goes on a crazy long supply chain with all the refrigeration, packaging, manufacturing, etc. And then when a third of it ends up getting wasted, you can see just how many resources also get wasted along that journey. And so that's why globally, food waste is responsible for 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than the whole entire fashion industry.
Wow.
And it's 5 times the aviation industry.
Wow. That is bonkers.
Yeah.
I love going on holiday, and I think we've all been to an all-inclusive, but I just can't get over the heartbreak of the amount of food waste.
Yeah.
And it took me, I went last year for the first time, actually, in a long time, to an all-inclusive, and actually it took me a while to feel, I didn't even feel okay.
And the reality is you shouldn't feel okay.
No, you shouldn't feel okay.
Like, we really should not be feeling okay with this, because if you think about it, food is literally our life source. Without food, we die.
Yes.
So it's sort of baked into our DNA to not want to waste or throw away food, to be repelled by that. But in our modern society, we've become numbed to it all, and it's become normalized, and we need to unnormalize that really, really quickly, especially because we've got another 2 billion people joining the planet by 2050. And in order to feed us all, we need to increase global food production by over 60%. And today we don't know how we're going to achieve that. So it's madness that we're throwing away a third of all the food we produce each year, and we don't know how we're going to feed another 2 billion people.
I know. It's scary, I think, being a mum, being a parent. We think about the future for our children and our children's children.
Absolutely.
If things don't change.
Yeah.
What could, let's say, just anyone do, like a me? What could I do? What could I do to make this better?
Well, the thing to really convey to people is you have so much power, and it's so easy to feel helpless, overwhelmed, like what I do doesn't count. But certainly when it comes to food waste, that couldn't be further from the truth. So if you take a country like the UK, we waste a third of all the food we produce, but 60% of that food waste takes place in the home.
Yeah.
So UK households throw away £17 billion sterling worth of perfectly good food every year. A typical family of 4 is throwing away £1,000 worth of food each year that could have been eaten. So that massive existential problem I just talked about, we in our homes are responsible for over half of that in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's really counterintuitive to people, because when you talk to them about food waste in the UK and where does it happen, they say, oh, it must be the supermarkets. No, supermarkets are 2% of all food waste. We in our homes are 60%. And it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
There's 28 million households. We're throwing away roughly 20% in the weekly shop. And so to practical solutions, kind of what can you do? I've got the sort of 5 S's that I sort of bear in mind that help us reduce our food waste. So the first one is to shop with a plan and actually just kind of sit down, and it can be really fun, especially if you've got young kids, and sort of plan the meals for the week. So that makes sure that you buy what you need and you don't buy more than what you need. The second thing is to store your food properly. And there are hundreds, if not honestly thousands, of tips and tricks about how to store your food so that you'll preserve its life. So for example, potatoes and onions should never be stored together. Because
really,
yes, you're like, oh, quick, shoot home and separate those two. Yeah, they're frenemies. So they accelerate the rate at which they sort of mutually go off. Bananas is another classic that people kind of struggle with. Now, if you put a tinfoil hat or a beeswax wrap or cling film or anything over the top of the bunch of bananas and put a band around it, that will then dramatically slow down the rate of ripening.
Yeah.
Another one would be herbs. They're really tough to eat on time. So herbs should be treated like fresh flowers. So keep them in a glass of water in the fridge and they'll last much longer.
So much. I don't know.
So yeah,
I don't know these things.
There are honestly hundreds and hundreds of tips and tricks about how to store your food. So you've got to shop with a plan. You've got to store your food properly.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, for example, should always be on the countertop.
Yeah.
Bread should actually be kept in a bread bin. It kind of goes stale much more quickly in the fridge. The next one is to serve your food on smaller plates. And because if you have a smaller plate, you put less food on it, and that sort of, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. It's true, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Whereas if you have a smaller plate, then if you are still hungry, go back for seconds, but 9 times out of 10 people don't. And another one for people with kids is, too often we sort of want to take control of our kids and we serve up their food for them. But actually, if you empower them to figure out their own portion size and their serving size, again, that sort of really helps reduce waste. The 4th S is to save your leftovers. And so my husband
should be doing it.
My husband sort of laughs at me because I will save even just like a tiny spoonful of something, because that can be one of 5 or 6 things that I might put on my plate for lunch tomorrow. But saving your leftovers, I mean, honestly, the best meals that we have as a family are just this random eclectic mix. You open up the fridge and go, right, I'm going to put this with this. I mean, they just
fridge lotto.
They don't go together, but they taste so good. And it's just because the food marinates, it just tastes better on days 2 or 3. And then the final S, if none of that has worked, is to share your food, right? Give away your surplus food, because we are always going to find ourselves in a situation where we've overcatered for a party, we've decided to eat in instead of order in instead of eating what's in the fridge. We go on holiday, we go on a diet.
Things change.
And that's what Olio is for, is to find a way to sort of enable people to give away their food in a way that's sort of simple, safe and fun. And then the final one, which actually also fits with an S, so maybe it should be the 6 S's, is smoothies. And again, for people with kids, I invested in a sort of NutriBullet, I think it was, many, many years ago. And it is amazing. Like pretty much every fruit, every veg that's looking a little wrinkly or a little sad, just throw in some milk or some yogurt.
I'm feeling so bad about the avocado I threw out yesterday.
Avocado's lovely in a smoothie.
I know. But so you're right.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And actually, you just covered a whole bunch of stuff that I was going to ask, just from a personal point of view as well. just the fact that actually, but it is common sense. It is kind of common sense when we're talking about educating ourselves, but it's that numbness to just a fast moving lifestyle, not thinking about, things like how you should store
And I think
stuff.
we've lost lots of these skills, because the reality is that sort of our mother's generation were kind of busy going out to work, often for the first time, and then they were being hammered hard by this miracle of convenience food and ready meals. And so that sort of generation lost touch with all of these tips and tricks and food storage and preparation skills. And then our generation has not learned that, and we weren't taught that in school. And I'm really, really, really hope that for the next generation that there's a shift, that we can equip them with, honestly, these basic skills. It's like, if AI is going to take over everything, then we should be teaching our kids real tangible skills that will help them survive and thrive. And, as I say, a family of 4 are throwing away £1,000 worth of food each year. Well, just imagine what you could do with £1,000. It's a lot of money.
It's crazy. Can I ask a question? And maybe it's a silly question, but things like, so the planet side of things, that is actually a really important thing, because I've got friends that massively plan out their food for the week. And I think, brilliant. I think I'm really busy, so I don't do it, which I'm going to start doing it now. But when things go out of date, or they're coming towards, what will tend to happen in my house is I'll have an idea of what I'm going to cook. Buy the ingredients, then reality hits that maybe I've gone out to eat, or something's changed, and that product stayed in my fridge. I think, I will use it, and it gets to the expiry date, and I think, what would I use it? Can you use the app? Can you use legally? Are you able to do that?
Well, let me quickly talk about dates, because that's actually a massive challenge for lots of people.
I think there's a discrepancy between the actual supermarket.
There are multiple dates, and it's really confusing. So there are 2 main dates in the UK. So one date is the best before date, and that literally means that the food is optimal from an aesthetics, composition, texture, maybe taste perspective before that date. It means it's optimal, but you can absolutely safely and happily and often deliciously eat that food for days, weeks, months, even years after the best before date. So the best before date really is just a manufacturer's guidance. The use by date is a health and safety date. And it is illegal for businesses to even give away food after its use by date. And we don't allow food after the use by date on the Olio app. So food after its best before date, absolutely add it to the app. Other people want it, they will pop round and pick it up. So it's really important to understand the difference between dates. The other thing I say around this whole topic is, and I certainly used to be quite guilty of that, is you'd sort of leave stuff in the fridge with great intentions, hoping that you're going to get round to eating it. But probably if you're being really honest with yourself, you sort of know that maybe you weren't. And then you leave it in the fridge, and then eventually it's gone past the date, or it's almost walking out the fridge by itself. And then you feel less guilty popping it in the bin.
Yes, true.
And the key thing is to kind of interject and early on, when you recognise, realistically, my plans have changed. I'm probably realistically not going to get round to eating this. So either give it away right away to someone on Olio, and a typical food listing is honestly requested within minutes. So there's no shortage of people living near you who want free food. Or if not, and if you have freezer capacity, like honestly, you need to befriend your freezer, because you can freeze almost everything.
You can freeze a lot, can't you?
You really, really can.
Freezing,
yeah. And then my other sort of trick around all of this is I've completely changed how I cook. So I used to do that, you kind of work till the end of the day, and then you've got that mad dash half an hour to prepare dinner for everybody.
Things I should be doing, yes.
And I was trying to figure out how to eat more sustainably. And I was trying to sort of solve for lots of variables. I was like, how can I eat more plant-based? How can I have organic? How can I not have lots of waste? And I really don't know how to cook good, tasty plant-based, because I was just very used to kind of, meat and 2 veg type stuff, and a chicken stir fry or whatever. And my hack that sort of solved all of those variables was to stop doing the mad dash of cooking every day and instead allocate anywhere between 2 and 5 hours on a weekend and batch cook for the whole week.
Yeah.
And that has been absolutely game changing. I listen to
Really? Yeah.
podcasts, so I love it. And
Yeah.
it's my own sort of me time. And I just cook away and I know that I'm making healthy, nutritious food for my family.
Mm.
It's hitting all of my sustainability goals and it's very cost effective, reduces waste. And then at
Time
the end of the day,
saving.
you
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
pop stuff in the oven, microwave, reheat it, and
Brilliant.
it's saved, a lot of time.
Brilliant, brilliant. Really, really good tips. And definitely something, and loads of things actually I'm going to be thinking about and doing at home. Um, with the education part of
Yeah.
the side of like what you were talking about now, like you said, the tips, the tricks, how to store things. Is that all on the Olio app?
The honest answer is some of it is.
Mm,
So we have a section in the app called Goals, which
mm.
is in the sort of hamburger menu. So it's not in the main navigation. And in that, we call goals sort of, it's a bit like Tinder for sustainable living. So you can kind of right swipe or left swipe
Oh,
to
okay.
put sort of simple swaps onto your to-do list. And many of those goals that are included in there are educational tips and tricks about how to store and prepare food. But it also covers other sustainability tips and tricks as well that relate to
Amazing.
just
So I think it's really
sustainable living more
important, yeah,
broadly. Yeah. What I'd
to have the
dearly love to see
education.
is this education taken into
Schools.
schools.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say, I think that's probably something that maybe
Yeah, because we
haven't
have
really
a massive
developed.
healthcare
Y-
crisis
Yeah,
happening right now, and food and our food system is fueling an enormous element of that. And actually, what we need to do is kind of take it back to basics and be
hmm,
teaching our kids a lot more about food and the power of food
yeah,
and food as medicine, honestly,
hmm, hmm.
and giving them these skills and so that they feel comfortable and confident in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I said before when we were talking before we've hit the record button, I've got a 4 and 10-year-old. I know
Yeah.
you've got 2 children as well. And actually, the education side of things, I think is so important. They
Mm,
don't have it at schools. And probably, faux pas on my side as well, that I haven't really given much thought and time to it, apart from the fact that I think, oh, I'm doing a little bit of good if I'm
mm,
using like vegetables that I've grown from the garden or I'm composting.
yeah.
But the waste and the understanding of the food and that side of things
Yeah.
and what good it does to you and what great
Yeah.
food you can eat to kind of nourish and cure your body and fuel it,
Mm.
really important.
Yeah, and, this is the first time I've sort of said it out loud in public,
Okay.
but, um, I have set my summer task to write a book about all
Uh,
of this, sort of called Simple Swaps,
yeah.
to try and put that information out there because I've spent 8 years now
Mm,
trialing and experimenting and failing and succeeding at home with our family, and
yes.
I've learned an enormous amount, and I recognise that most people have not got the time
Yeah.
to do that. And what we need is just easily digestible, bite-sized bits of information, simple swaps that we can make to our daily living. And then just kind of step by step, they add up. And before you know it, you are honestly healthier, wealthier, and happier
Yes.
through living more
So good,
sustainably.
yeah.
So,
That is the amazing thing actually about being A, entrepreneurial, and B, when you start something, how it can grow into something else.
something else you never
So I'm so
imagined. Yeah.
excited to
Yeah.
kind of hear about the book when
Yeah.
you've finished it and it's
Yeah.
all released. So we'll definitely be following that one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Olio from a business point of view then, because I
Yes.
have, an audience of listeners that definitely like to understand the kind of entrepreneurial side
Mhm.
of a business. We do get a lot of listeners that have got small businesses of their own or just
Yeah.
starting up. And I think it's always so inspiring to see how something that is just an idea in your head,
Yeah.
as we mentioned earlier, is creating something absolutely phenomenal, something that has then grown to change people's lives.
Yeah.
So, first of all, so you set it up with your co-founder and friend, and is it
Yeah.
Sasha?
Sasha. Yeah.
Sasha, amazing. So, did you
Yeah.
guys know each other from beforehand?
We did, yeah. So we had met 10 years prior to setting up Olio, studying at business school in California. And we had a decade of just being the best of friends, sort of partying like rock stars in
Yeah,
London, then having kids at the same time and having a
brilliant.
sort of transition in life phase there. And then when I had that experience and thought, why isn't there a simple app where I can share my food? I shared that idea with Sasha. She immediately got it, and we decided to solve that problem together.
How did it start? So
I had the idea. Then I told quite a few people about this idea of a neighbours neighbour food sharing app, and most people thought I was crazy and that perhaps I should, your baby brain had got the better of me and I should go back to work. Luckily, Sasha didn't.
Yeah.
The first thing we did was the desk research around the scale of the problem of food waste, which I've shared with you. And we just couldn't believe this wasn't on the front page of every newspaper. And we couldn't believe that no one was actually working to solve it. So we had a lot of fire in our bellies to solve that problem. But we thought just because it's a problem that sort of exists, I guess, at a societal level, it doesn't mean to say that it's something that people care about. So how can we find out if people actually care about this problem? So we did a market research survey that we shared all over sort of local Facebook groups and stuff like that. And we asked lots of questions about how people felt about food waste. But one of the core insights was that 1 in 3 people told us that they were physically pained throwing away food. And that was a bit of a bingo moment. So we thought, well, hang on a minute, that's a really mainstream problem. If 1 in 3 people are feeling physically pained throwing away food, and there's been no innovation since the bin. So that was a big sort of tick in the box, sort of, it's a problem on paper and it's a problem that lots of people care about. But that didn't mean to say that people would take the next step in our hypothesis, which is to share food with a random stranger. And we were asking ourselves, how can we test whether people are prepared to share food with a stranger without building an app? Because certainly back then, in the pre-AI days, building an app was a very expensive thing to do. And we didn't want to sink our life savings doing that unless we knew that people were going to use it. So what we did was we created a WhatsApp group and we invited 12 people who had done that market research survey, who all said they were physically paying throwing away good food. They all lived near one another in North London. They didn't know each other. They didn't know us. And we said, for the next 2 weeks, here's a WhatsApp group. If anyone's got any spare food, someone in this group might want to pick it up from you. And we launched that on a weekend in April, and we waited with bated breath. And it wasn't until the Monday morning where someone finally shared a listing, which was a bag of shallots. And that was requested within 23 minutes. So really, really quickly. And lots of sharing happened over those 2 weeks. We then met and debriefed with all of those people, which was kind of a surreal experience, meeting people that we'd never met in coffee shops, talking about what that experience had been like for them. And they told us a couple of things. They said, 1, you have to build this. 2, it only needs to be slightly better than a WhatsApp group. And that's probably been some of the most powerful advice we've had on this journey, which is don't overcomplicate. Don't do all the bells and whistles. Just deliver the bare minimum that is required to get going, and then you can start learning. And then the third thing they said is, how can we help? And they were the people who, before sort of the night before launch, we asked them, right, please can you declutter all of your kitchen cupboards? So on launch day, we've got lots of spare
whole
food.
Pantry almost.
Whole pantry of food on the app. And in parallel, when we were getting the app built by a wonderful agency called Simple Web in Bristol, we were pounding the pavements of North London, getting sort of free surplus food from businesses. We were handing it out on the street and we were explaining to people what this app was going to do. And we were getting names and email addresses.
Brilliant.
And we got over 2,000 email addresses of people who all lived in these certain postcodes in North London. So on launch day, we had our 12 people who were decluttering their fridges and their cupboards. And we had these 2,000 people who we emailed to let them know that Olio was live. And that was sort of how we went from idea to app.
But I love that because actually it's kind of like you said, goes back to as well from your time growing up on the farm where everything is hard. Like that doesn't sound like it was easy work.
No, it wasn't.
Like pounding the streets, getting names, getting the email addresses. Like
not whilst also having a newborn baby, a toddler.
It's hard work.
No childcare support and doing consulting work to bring in the money. So it was definitely a pretty
amazing
tough period.
And the name Olio. Was it always the name? How did it start?
It was always the name. So we knew that we had a choice to make, which is we could either pick a name that sort of does what it says on the tin, for example, the Food Exchange Network, or we could pick a name that didn't necessarily mean anything, but that we could create a brand behind it. And honestly, we had these massive ambitions because the scale of the problem we were solving was so big. So we wanted to dream as big as Facebook and Amazon and people like that. And so we said, Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, And
Wait,
the Food
wait,
Exchange
there's the
Network,
names, yes.
no.
Yeah.
Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, Olio, yes.
Yeah.
And Olio means a miscellaneous collection of things, which if you look on the app,
Oh, does it?
you will see a miscellaneous collection of things.
That's
It is
brilliant.
also the name for a traditional Mediterranean stew. And stew is a dish that you would often create to prevent having food waste. You put all your sort of leftovers in to create a stew. And then also we chose Olio because we love the two O's. We felt it was very symbolic of the planet, of community, of circularity, of sharing. And finally, we just thought the word sounded elegant. And we knew that for Olio to be successful, it couldn't be seen as this like weird thing that a bunch of crazy tree-hugging hippies wanted. It needed to have a degree of aspiration behind it. And we felt that the name Olio ticked all of those boxes.
Absolutely. I think if you called it the Food Exchange,
Well, we would have been stuck because very
yes.
quickly our community started using
The name
Olio to
then,
give away
yes.
toiletries and cosmetics and light bulbs. And then we would have had a name that wouldn't have worked. So we were very relieved that we went for the Olio route.
I think you probably understood something quite early on as well, given your background, is that creating a business or creating an app, you're creating that brand and that brand awareness. What advice can you give, any advice to people that are listening that have created a business? Because I often talk to people that create businesses, have small businesses, and I will talk to them about developing the brand side of things, make it, so that it is a complete reflection of maybe it's what you're trying to tell, the story that you're trying to tell.
For me, there are several components to building a brand. So first of all, you've got to have a really, really clear mission. And we have that at Olio, and we shout about it from the rooftops at every single opportunity. Like no one is unclear about why Olio exists and what problem we exist to solve. So you've got to be crystal clear on what your mission is. We then also have 4 company values, and they really inform absolutely everything that we do. So they're inclusive, resourceful, caring, and ambitious. And I would say also that your brand, now, of course, you've got things like tone of voice and this, that, and the other, and all of that is important, and your logos and your colours. But what is most important is how you show up in the world day in, day out. And every single customer touch point with your product or service is cementing your brand in their brains. And actually your logo is your least important thing. And when we first launched Olio, we got our logo done, I think for £150 from People Per Hour, because we knew that this business was not going to live or die on the basis of its logo, right? And I think too many people get too trapped with the sort of the trappings and the sort of visual stuff of brand, and they don't understand that brand is how you show up every day in your customers' lives. And so we invest an enormous amount of time in community building, in communicating with our community and putting on webinars for them. We've got a forum section in the app where we are continually updating them with our work and what we're doing and what's working well and what's not working well. And it's all of that stuff that builds the brand.
Creating a community and engaging.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's actually hard work to build a brand, but it reaps its benefits many times over because, for example, we have between 50 and 70,000 people joining Olio every month, and over half of them are coming to us through word of mouth. And so when you build a really powerful brand, people can't help but tell all their friends and family about it. And that's just free marketing for you.
Well, I said earlier, again, before we started recording, I just saw someone put a post up on social media asking for something to be recycled. And I said, oh, have you tried this app? Just because I thought, well, why? Why don't so many other people know about it? But they do. People do know about it, but a lot does come through the communities, the engagement, and then word of mouth and spreading that across. And you've got something like 130,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, I lose track of what our social media stats are, but
8 million subscribers.
Yeah, so we have over 8.5 million people have joined the Olio community. We have almost 150,000 volunteers. So these are people who collect unsold food from businesses.
That's really good.
And they redistribute that food to their local community through the Olio app. So we work with 2,700 Tesco stores, 1,400 Sainsbury's, 1,000 Icelands. People are collecting and redistributing surplus food from school canteens, hospital canteens, office canteens. So that's just an incredible network of people who are really passionate about Olio. They're really passionate about the food sharing that they do from businesses to the community. And then we also have 65,000 ambassadors, and these are people who are really passionate about our mission. We give them the digital assets and information they need to spread the word about Olio in their online networks, and then they can also download, or we'll mail them, physical marketing materials, so posters and letters and flyers. It's really old school kind of guerrilla marketing, but it works. It's really, really effective.
And I think, as you said, it's getting people on board, engaging, wanting to be part of the community and spread the word. They've got to be in with your passion and kind of on board on the train with you.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of businesses fail because they have this fantastic grand vision. Wouldn't it be amazing if everybody in the world did X, was on my platform and did X? And everyone would agree with that vision, but the problem is no one sort of cares about it enough to be with you in the early stages where your product isn't that good, your service isn't that good, and you're kind of working through it. And Olio, though, has always benefited from the fact that there are so many people who care so intensely about what we're trying to do and the problem we're trying to solve that they forgive a multitude of sins. And then over time, we bring on people who are less forgiving, but then we've improved the product and service by then. So I always think of these, I call them kind of the stepping stones of forgiveness. And you've got to have those sort of cohorts of people who will support your business as you continually go and improve it. So your business doesn't need to be perfect from day one.
No.
But it just needs to, but you do need to have people who love what you're doing enough that they're prepared to forgive the fact that you're not perfect on day one. Yeah.
And just following on from that then, and for those that have set up a business, maybe struggling in the early days, I don't think any business, well, I'm sure there are businesses that do kind of just take off and that's it. But ordinarily, most people struggle with a business, especially in the early days. How did you keep it going? And how did you keep going?
That is a good question, because yesterday was our 10-year anniversary of Olio. Thank you. Olio. I can remember very vividly in the early days, I would go to sleep in the evenings thinking tomorrow's the day that I'm going to wake up and we're going to have Instagram style hockey stick growth. And because it was so obvious to me, here's this enormous problem. We've created this fantastic solution that works really well. So surely it's just going to explode. And that just didn't happen. And it's very easy to think that the next product feature, the next marketing campaign, the next senior hire, the next fundraise, the next something is going to unlock explosive growth. But for 99.9% of businesses, that doesn't actually happen. That's not how businesses are grown. There is no silver bullet. It is just a series of lead bullets that you just have to layer on, layer on, layer on. And that's why the resilience piece is really important. And Sasha and I have also learned that sort of no matter how crappy and soul-destroying things feel, inevitably there is something good around the corner. Generally, we found sort of within a couple of weeks, maybe sometimes a couple of months. And you've just got to hang in there. So long as you are constantly testing and experimenting, right? So you can't expect sort of something good to happen if you don't change anything. But if you are constantly experimenting and trying to improve what you do, then you've just got to hang in there. And luck and the universe will throw stuff your way that it does not sit in any project plan or any strategy document anywhere. But if you keep at something long enough, then those things, there's a higher probability that luck will impact you.
And I think it's riding with the failure as well, or what feels like failure in that moment. It's never really failure. It's just like you say, it's pick yourself, get up and fight every day.
We don't, Sasha and I don't have this concept of failure. Like, honestly, we don't. Because we
know in that
that
moment you can feel like it's all gonna fail, it's all failing. And then it's like, no, let's change that frame of mind. And
we just recognize that most things we do are not going to work. And so we've just got to test as many things as quickly as possible and try and test them in the right order to increase our probability of success happening more quickly. But it comes with the territory.
It does. What's next for Olio?
Well, as I say, we've passed our 10-year anniversary, and so we've definitely had a moment of sort of stopping and reflecting on what we've achieved. On the one hand, we're really disappointed. We're not at the size and scale of Facebook or anything like that. But equally, we're incredibly proud of what we have achieved. So we have had over 8 million people join Olio. We've had 120 million meals worth of food shared via the platform. We've had 15 million household items rehomed. So this again is books, clothes, toiletries, cosmetics, kitchen appliances. And that has had an environmental impact equivalent to taking over 950 million car miles off the road. And we've also saved 37 billion litres of water from going to waste. So we've had incredibly strong environmental impact, but equally as powerful is our social impact. So we ran a survey recently, and 2/3 of our community say that they've made friends through Olio.
Brilliant.
3/4 say that sharing has improved their mental health, and 84% say that Olio has improved their financial well-being.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of stuff we can be really, really proud of. As we look forward to the next 10 years, we absolutely want to take Olio global.
Yes.
And we've been very busy over the last year or so building out the Olio proposition for businesses, so that in addition to redistributing all of their unsold food at the end of the day, we are now increasingly sending the Olio community into their stores to buy more of the food when it's in its discounting phase, so we can help those businesses generate incremental revenues, which at the end of the day is much more motivating for businesses than actually kind of solving the problem of food waste per se.
Amazing. Well, I think what you're doing with Olio is extraordinary. It sounds like it's been an extraordinary journey.
It's been pretty crazy, yeah.
And it sounds like there's so much more to come. Even from our very short conversation today, chatting, I can already, in my mind's going, oh yes, like the stuff with the schools, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much to be done.
There is. We're in 400 schools in the UK right now. There's 30,000 schools. Every single school needs to be redistributing its surplus food, especially when we've got 4 million kids in the UK who are living in food poverty, right? So it's really, really important that we achieve these goals that we set ourselves.
Amazing. And I'm confident that you will.
Definitely get there eventually, by hook or by crook.
So just to close then, have you got a piece of advice that you can share with our listeners, whether that is to do with the mission of Olio, or it is to do with creating a business in this, in the climate that we're in now?
I mean, lots of pieces of advice. I think both the mission is crucial, the not believing in silver bullets. But another thing that I would say is about the importance of just lots of small steps. So it's very easy to delay and procrastinate and not do stuff because you've set yourself this massive big thing to do. Whereas actually building a business is not about these really big moves. It's just about taking those small steps day in, day out, like just getting in those repetitions. That's what builds a business that will be successful and that will endure. And also it makes it much less intimidating for you. You're like, oh, well, I don't have to do this massive thing. I've just got to do this small thing today and another small thing tomorrow. Yeah. And cumulatively, lots of those small things add up to great things.
Brilliant. Great advice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tessa, for joining us on the Anything But Ordinary podcast. It's been a real pleasure to meet with you, to learn. And I'm going to take it home and make sure that I'm implementing stuff in my household. And I hope other people do the same. So brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.